Hey everybody, my name is Sarah. I'm a physical therapist. I was a yoga teacher before that, so I kind of bridged that space a little bit. And what I want to talk about today is what do we do when we're working with a usually new client or student and they've been given messaging that they are either too sensitive for certain types of work, or that certain movements they should never do on their body. So that's what I want to talk about today. If you have thoughts about this, if you've had experiences with this, please, if you're live, feel free to comment below, or even if you're watching it later, I'd love to hear what you have to say. So a lot of the time, this kind of message has come from a doctor, but I do want to say before I get into this, it's definitely not exclusive. It's not exclusive to doctors, and it's also not all doctors, There's certainly physical therapists, chiropractors, yoga teachers, Pilates instructors who have, consciously or not, given a message to a client that, they can't do this kind of movement, or, this part of their body is especially sensitive and they should be really, really careful, or they should never twist again, or never pick up something that's too heavy, or things like that. Yesterday I was asking, what kind of things like this have you guys heard? And we got some doozies. Hey, everybody who's just joining. So one person told me that and I believe the message was for them, that they've both been told at different times, either never stretch again because they're going to turn into like spaghetti. And then also stretch every day because otherwise they're going to be stiff like Pinocchio. So it's sort of like, well, which one is it? Someone else was talking about how they were told, like, if thing is too hard or it's painful, just never do it again. Which, after a while, if I have too many of those, it's going to be problematic. I can't do anything. Someone else was talking about how they were told, like, don't squat, or a patient or a client of theirs was told, don't squat. And we were both kind of like, well, how am I ever supposed to get in and out of a chair if I can't squat, if I'm not allowed to squat? So what I've seen, and you guys may have thoughts about this as well, but what I've seen for people that I work with is that the problem with this kind of messaging is, it kind of gets into the person's psyche in a way. And in some ways, depending on how long it's been going on, how much fear, anxiety, worry has been generated around this issue, it sort of becomes their idea of themselves. Certainly for me, when I've had multiple hip surgeries, but prior to that, I had a lot of pain for a long time, and it is hard not to kind of start to feel like this thing is who I am. But the part of the problem is, let's say someone's been told, not to do a certain movement because it's going to hurt them. So then they stop doing that movement. Let's say it's twisting. They stop twisting. But now, because they're not twisting, it's really likely that that lack of movement is actually going to generate new pain, new issues, new stiffness down the line. And then, so now they have this new pain, this new discomfort, and that reinforces the idea that, like, oh yeah, no, I can't even handle not twisting. So God forbid that I actually go and do that twist, right? It kind of reinforces this idea of fragility. And, so the question is really, like, obviously it would be ideal if people stopped putting these kind of messages out there. But what I wanted to talk about today is, let's say you meet a new student or a private person that you're working with, and this is what they're coming in with. What do you do? How do you work successfully with this person? And you'll learn to, we've probably all gotten different messages here and there, but you'll learn to recognize what I joke about. It's like Bob the drag queen with his song Purse First. So they'll come in sort of like fragility first. And like the first few things will be like, well, my doctor said I should never fill in the blank, right? And if that's sort of how the person is leading, if that's what the first thing they want me to know, my experience, my feeling with this is that it's not very useful for me to then immediately go, oh, no, that's not true. This person that you trust has lied to you. You don't know me, but I'm telling you that's wrong. I don't see that that's a very successful technique. because I'm still an unknown. I am not yet a trusted advisor. So instead, what I usually just sort of go, okay, that's not what you're supposed to do. Okay, we'll work around it. And so instead of kind of coming at it with like, no, you're wrong, you have this false belief, and I'm going to force you to do something that you don't think you should do, I say, okay, and then in the back of my mind, I am starting to kind of plot and plan. Okay, how am I going to sneakily, at some point, start to get this person to move their body this way? And sometimes it's things like for example, let's just say they were told like they shouldn't turn their head, or they have a lot of pain when they turn their head, so they try not to. You can always have something where like they hold their head still and then they're actually moving their body underneath it, right? So you can kind of come at things from the other side, right? That way that person is actually turning their head, but their brain doesn't register it that way, and so it seems okay. Or let's say the person is concerned about bending forwards because they've been told they should never flex their lower spine, they should never bend their lower back. I can work with them on like the cat part of a cat-cow, or working on like pelvic tilts, so that you start to create that movement in a way that feels less scary, that the stakes are lower, things like that. And the other thing that I like to do as well is, as I'm working with someone who has, coming in with these sorts of ideas, I like to remind people, and this is good sort of across the board, but I like to remind people going along, look at these gains, #gains, right? So it'll be like, oh, we used to do this exercise with the yellow TheraBand and now you're doing it with the blue one. Or we used to use a 5-pound weight and now you're using a 15-pound weight. Because people forget, they really do. They're not tracking things like that. And so I think it's good to kind of reinforce and remind. And now I'm starting a new story. And the new story is, oh, I'm actually strong. Here's all of this evidence that is true, right? So I think, obviously we all want to be more thoughtful in the way that we talk to people about their bodies, and not creating this sort of like fearful, mindset. Unfortunately, social media is not great for that, because it's much more clickable to post something that's like, do this one back stretch and you'll never have pain again, versus, the real thing, which would be like, this stretch might help your back feel better, but actually you might need to strengthen. And what about your adductors? And if you consider the way that you're walking, right? That's not a very headline grabbing topic. So, generally I just think if we consider our work overall as, I'm adding to your life, I'm not subtracting, right? So I'm not trying to take anything away from you that you feel attached to. I'm just going to add new things, and I'm going to let you, my patient, my client, come to the conclusion that, oh, actually I can, and actually it's safe. So I'd love to hear your thoughts or your techniques, anything that you guys have that you do that you find successful. And I just want to talk about as well, I have a small group mentorship program called Quantum Leap Community, and this is the kind of stuff we talk about, sort of ideas like this, and then we also talk about sort of more micro-specific body issues, injuries, surgeries, how to work with somebody, as a movement teacher successfully. And if that sounds like something that you would be interested in learning more about, there's a link in my bio. I'm going to do a free sample class of the kind of workshop, the kind of class that we do in the group in March. So if you'd like to be invited to that, and come see it live for yourself, and you can click on the link in the bio, and that'll get you on the mailing list. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm excited to hear what you guys think. All right, have a great day.